What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the collaboration EP between Lil Reese and Lil Durk. Basically this project is called Super Vultures and it came out in the summer of 2017. So the thing about this particular project is just the fact that I'm a little bit unfamiliar with like the territory of these particular folks at this stage. Now I know like the occasional Lil Durk project, I reviewed like a 28 mixtape of his, I reviewed like a 2018 mixtape of his last year in early 2023, and I've reviewed a series of Lil Reese mixtapes, I'd have to say. But I wanted to get to some of this because I'm not as familiar with Lil Reese past like the early 2010s, just to see what he's up to when he started fleshing out more albums. I want to say I'm not really as positive, full-blown sure if Lil Reese actually dropped albums. I know he dropped like a series of mixtapes, but he may have just been like a mixtape-only rapper. I know Lil Durk had the same come-up around that particular time in like the early 2010s. He was popping with Chicago Drill, some of those type folks around that particular time. Lil Durk was on Lil Reese's Super Savage project from 2013, so it's a good type pitch. Apparently Lil Durk might have had a feud at some stage with Chief Keef, something like that. Don't know his full blown, but I want to check this particular project out to see what's up with it. Just to be able to get towards some of this appeal here, I'd have to say. This is a pretty balanced type project. It's 6 short songs, but I look after within the appeal. It has enough snap about it. This is not really a drill record, I'd have to say. It's just an interesting pitch to kind of get that. It's just more melded with like 2010s trap, circa like the times of Dirty Sprite 2, What a Time to Be Alive, later projects by Future and like Yo Gotti, Migos, some of those type folks. Product of like the culture era of 2010s trap, IG life, some of those type pitches, Instagram life, some of that type fare. I'd say just a good type fare. Lil Durk was one of these type cats as well. It was interesting to see Lil Reese around this particular time just to see what he would do with it just within that. But I'm not really as full-blown sure if there was a single, but I'll just go ahead and recommend like I was saying, 6 songs on this particular EP. I'll go ahead and recommend the 4.5 that I recommend on here. So it's just easier to say the ones I don't. Basically, the only song I don't recommend in any fashion on this particular EP is just Distance. And then the Almost song is Nobody Knows. So I just would look after basically Distance. To talk about Distance, why I don't recommend that particular one. It's just kind of the concept that, I think it's kind of a relatively hypnotic type song, has a relatively ambient and just kind of more lush type production on there, but it is a little bit mildly cheesy just within the fare behind it, just within the aspect. I almost want to say it feels cartoony within a sense, but it's just kind of the concept. It just feels like, Megan Thee Stallion's Captain Hook, something of that type fare, just within the aspect kind of about it. I do like the trendiness to like, anime type culture within the pitch, but I just question, like, it just feels a little bit more, not as full blown and on point with the delivery, how it did it. I'd have to say just within time. I think Megan Thee Stallion just probably nailed it a little bit better just within the concept. But there's some pitches like that. It's trap music and it's very trendy to like the times, but it just kind of feels like these are just kind of glancing blows, just kind of trading punches as far as those pitches kind of happen. I was surprised that this particular product was just not more gnarled and just had more kind of thump of what was kind of a turn up within that particular pair. I feel like songs like Fuck That Shit, A Lotta, and 1500 at least convey that within a certain sense, but it just is a little bit more, it's kind of like an appetizer just within the pitch. I like the product of getting 2 drill heavyweights from Chicago area doing like this particular type of sound and being able to collaborate with it, but I just look after it. It's Lil Reese has heavier hitting projects like I Don't Like from 2012 and Super Savage, as what I was saying, and Lil Durk seems like he has more snarl, than what was shown on this particular product. It's just kind of the concept, but no single on here. It might have been Distance, not really sure if there were any music videos just within that particular fare, but just to say that's the concept as to why I didn't recommend Distance. And then Nobody Knows is kind of an Almost song. This is like a blossomy kind of Bella's gem, I'd have to say about this one, just a basic kind of glazed day relief and unwind to kind of get here, just some sunset gazing and smoke soundly type songs to kind of get here. And it's just like a more lackadaisical and not as full-blown quality version of Unstoppable. I'd say Unstoppable just pulls it off a little bit better, but Nobody Knows is a little bit more rosy and just a little bit more soft-spoken, a little bit more soft-spoken, a little bit more like ambient and touchy, sensitive as far as those pitches would kind of particularly happen with that. I just look within the tone, but it's a nice bop to kind of get here, but it's just kind of the concept that aiming for like that radio grab type of appeal, but once again, I feel like Unstoppable just nailed it better, so it's just within the pitch. But yeah, basically 4.5 out of 6. I'm going to go ahead and give this EP like an 8.25 out of 10. It's kind of within the distinction behind it. When you don't like every single song, it just snatches it a little bit. If I had liked 5 out of 6 on here, I'd probably get like a 9 or a 9.25, something like that. But it's just kind of within the tone. It has some good appeal about it. So I'll just get to some of these here. So basically, 1500 is a real quality one just to be able to get. This is probably one of the best songs on here just in terms of that. But once again, I feel like these are just kind of glancing blows. But it's like a set it off, kind of cruise around, I would feel like, in typical kind of 2010s trap stunt type noise kind of get here. Definitely some victory lap type music and just has some shadowy tints about it, I'd have to say. Just a good concept for that. One of the few songs with like more full-blown pounding kind of vehicle knock just within the pitch behind it. I mean, it's interesting because I just question just kind of the pitch, you know, getting two Chicago drill giants with both like some pretty prolific and just overall vicious mixtape type fare. I would have thought that they would have had something with a little bit, like, I think the closest thing to that, yeah, I mean, really, there's not even like a snarling song on here. I feel like 1500 is just basically like one of those reachers that like Future or Yo Gotti would kind of do, or Meek Mill, some of those type ones that just you can hear from like several blocks away within that pitch. It just like that oozing kind of ghostly kind of thump about it, but I just look after it. They don't really have something. It just is weird in hearing two Chicago drill rappers not do drill or something that just gets you energized within the pitch behind them. That's just kind of done. This is not like this is a Vultures type project, but it just does not really, it's not that carnivorous, I'd have to say. Fuck That Shit's a nice one. It's like a glaring kind of evening out, so I would have to say about this one, just a snack run and kind of haunting late 2010s trap, I would feel like here. Just some just some definite late 2010s trap shadows, I'd have to say. Just a good retire of commute to kind of get here. So what I mean by that is this after hours, 1 o'clock in the morning, midnight, some of that type fare, just a commerce, a just gas station runs pitches like that, standard trekking, like autumn type fare, just night fare, just, you know, basic kind of errands pitches like that. Hitting up the mailbox, some of that type fare. I will say that Fuck That Shit is a little bit alert. I mean, it's not quite a riled up type song, but it is a little bit just like lively, just where you're not like drowsy pitches like that, but it's just kind of the concept, just more kind of paranoia, I would have to say, just within the pitch, more so than full blown getting crunk, something like that, I'd say. But it's just kind of the concept, same thing with 1500. A lot is like a ghostly and hollow kind of feeling, nuked kind of night creeping, I'd have to say about this one. Just a freakish kind of act, like some freakish kind of after hours activity, I'd have to say, and just like some good mellow tracks to kind of get just for like after hours, like some good mellow tracks to kind of get for like night fare as far as those pitch kind of happen. Taco Bell run, some standard gas station, get some corn nuts, get some burritos, some of that type fare, I'd have to say. Good pitches for that. And you know, it's the concept of feeling nuked, definitely some Red Eyes type music, just feeling hazed out a little bit, feeling a little bit burnt, some pitches like that. Just have maybe Swisher in your ear, something like that, just standard cruise around, not Swisher in your ear to where you're getting caught if it's illegal, but just within the pitch of just if you have the pitch behind it, just something, you know, just feeling nice, some of that type fare, just be able to have local type air and running pitches like that, just standard homies type music in the after. And the Night Wind, good pitches for some of that. And then Unstoppable is a nice one. So this is like a smoky kind of trap R&B, nice autumn smog to kind of get here. I'd say this definitely reminds me of Young Thug, some of his more pop rap type ones, like a darker type sense. Maybe not as dark as like Lil Baby gets, or in certain senses Young Thug, but this is a nice radio grab, and it's definitely some put on type music. And by put on, not necessarily put on for your city, but just put on for your bay, put on for your bitch, as far as those pitches going to happen just within the tone behind it, just stunt what time it is, that type fare. This is a good example of like some trap R&B. I kind of feel like it was in its early stages in 2017, mid 2017, early 2018, some of that type fare, just being able to get like that commercial bounce about it. But I mean, there were folks like Young Thug and other folks like Meek Mill trying to do that particular type pitch of getting more trap R&B, some of that type relative fare. But I know Lil Durk had that pitch on some of his later projects, as far as that pitch kind of happens with more pop rap radio or pop trap radio grabs. That I'd say was just good fare for that. This is a good conductive one. I'd say this one works better than Distance and Nobody Knows. I feel like this album is kind of half. It's kind of half like night glimmering, just kind of more night commerce, snack run pitches like that, smokage in the air pitches like that, just local residential fun. And there's some songs that are more kind of pop trap commercial bound typeness, just to be able to get for like some ladies kickback and this overall fare for like it's kind of more radio fare for ladies kickback and relative makeshift type sense. It's not makeshift within a sense of just being blue collar like suited up pitches like that, but just within the tone of just a little bit more I mean, it's just kind of the pitch where I think pop trap was kind of in like its melding type stages, just being able to say, you know, Future was not necessarily doing it as much, and like Migos was not necessarily doing pop trap as much. I mean, I want to say there's some ones, I just can't think of them at this particular stage, but it's just kind of a relative concept of just getting something that is more not quite as just like ghastly, I'd say, just kind of the tone between horrorcore and sharper, kind of darker drill within those pitches, and then having like something that's more meant for airways and a little bit more for the ladies and a little bit more just like user friendly, just commercial wise, I'd say. But for the most part, the unfortunate thing is most of these kind of more pop trap type grabs that are trying to be more commercial just don't nail it nearly as well. But that's just kind of the pitch. I would say me recommending 4.5 out of 6 songs on this particular EP. I'm going to give this EP like an 8.25 out of 10. I feel like the enjoyment about it, the enjoyment is definitely here, but it just snags a little bit in like the score just because the concept. It probably would almost get like an 8.5 or an 8.75, but it's going to be an 8.25 just because the concept that the commercial side of things just was not nailed nearly as well. I feel like just a little bit more sleepy and just not quite as executed. I feel like there definitely need to be like a single or just something with like their usual strengths. Both Lil Durk and Lil Reese, like I was saying, are known. Both Lil Durk and Lil Reese are more known for their more energetic type songs just within the fare behind it. So I'd say it's kind of like I've said that it's a mild disappointment, but it's just kind of the concept that it just feels like it just is kind of like this more soft, it's just more softcore, not quite as aggressive as what probably needed to be for such a quality and star-studded type product just based upon the big names and the overall name-catching kind of appeal that these folks can have just within the pitch. Their mixtape fare, I mean, it has some good songs on here, but it's just not as much feral as what it probably needed to be. It's just within the pitch. It's a little bit more underhanded than what was expected, so that's just kind of the tone. But the Soulja score, as a result, I'll probably give the Soulja score like a 7.5 out of 10. I look within the tone. I feel like Unstoppable is a nice one. It doesn't really have like a single on here like I was saying there. Possibly it does, but it's just not. I feel like 1500, fuck that shit, and a lot are just ones that do have like some ghastliness about it, just more creeping kind of after hours type conduct and trekking stroll type music to kind of get just within the tone and cruise arounds, but it's just kind of the tone as far as that particular kind of goes that it just doesn't have like something that it needed like a Friday night kind of just got done with things, party starter, kickstarter pitch like that, pound some hard liquor, some of that type there is just within the pitch. But this project just needed to be more of like a weekend treat than what it wound up being. That's just within the pitch. But 7.5. In terms of the future, like both Lil Reese and Lil Durk are locked up right now, so I want to get to some more of these type projects. I've got a Lil Durk project that's on the way. I'm gonna get to a mixtape by Lil Durk to kind of get to some more of these type fares. I mean, this is a good project here. It's worth the purchase. There are some good gems on here, some good smokish type tunes, Homies, Kickback, some good disc ghastly type fare for like the autumn and some of that type fare to be able to have. But yeah, it really happens to be a thing that I think you may be left hungry for something a little bit more, just something a little bit more carnivorous and biting.